Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Into the Vault, the show where we reach back into the Disney vault, pull out a movie, and find out if it was a hidden treasure or if it was locked away for our own good. I'm your host, Garrison MacCraw, and with me today is Country Bear superfan Jayden McGrael.
That's me.
Jayden?
Big Al forever.
That's what your sign says.
Big Al 2024.
Yep, that's what your other sign says. You're holding two signs.
Yes. I'm holding a third sign.
Yep.
In the crook of my arm, it says, "Liver lips, will you marry me?"
Jayden, how are you doing with the Disney shutdown now that you can't go see the Country Bears perform live?
You know what? I would be fine on all other accounts, but this just has completely wrecked my spirits. I just miss the Country Bear Hall so
Wendell.
much. Shaker, whose real name is Terrence, Big Al, Liver Lips McGraw. You have Trixie. You have
Swingin' Teddy Bear?
Swingin' Teddy Bear. You have the dude. The bear band bear gonna play now in the good old key of G. Zeke and Zed and Ted and Fred and a bear named Tennessee.
Did you know the Coen brothers actually named the main character from The Big Lebowski after the dude from Country Bear Jamboree?
I wouldn't have known that. I've never seen The Big Lebowski.
Well, the audience has.
Gonna watch?
Yeah, we're watching The Big Lebowski. We're watching The Country Bears, the hit 2002 film. Jayden, as the biggest Country Bear fan, you've seen this movie, what, a dozen times?
Nope.
10 times?
Nope.
100 times?
Nope.
You watch it every day?
Nope.
How many times have you seen this movie, Jayden?
0 times. I have 0 experiences.
Well, that's why we brought you here. And by brought you here, I mean you're literally the only person around. I'm trapped in a house with you.
You know, that was actually a lie. I've seen it. I've seen the preview on like old VHS tapes, but it's like a fever dream memory of...
So you've seen the preview and the movie?
I've seen just the preview.
Okay.
So I have a teeny tiny bit of experience, but I don't know what's real and what my childhood just made up.
Well, I have a poster in front of me.
Ooh.
I'm handing it over to you. Jayden, explain what you see going on here, and does it bring back any memories?
Yeah, it brings back some memories of both the Country Bear Jamboree and the preview of my childhood dreams, I guess. But these are some new country bears. You have one wearing hippie glasses and one that's obviously the pretty lady bear and like 3 others. And one in the middle who's this little kid bear. Okay, I think I remember him being a part of a human family.
Yes.
Like he was adopted or he was just born different or something, which I don't know, but he's living his dream of singing with the Country Bears.
So Jayden, based off your knowledge of the attraction at Disney World and this poster and your fever dream / watching the preview as a child, what do you think the plot of the movie is?
I think it is to a T exact same plot as the Jason Segel Muppet movie. Where it's like a kid who's different who wants to join the Muppets or the Country Bears, and he goes, but then they have to get through some hijinks and rescue the theater.
I will neither confirm nor deny the intense accuracy of that statement.
Are they the same movie?
I'll answer that as soon as we come back.
Woo.
See you soon. And we're back. Jayden, to answer your question, yes.
It was the exact same movie.
Exact same movie.
Mm-hmm, from start to finish.
But the Country Bears did it first.
Yeah, you're right. I can't really hate on the movie being predictable because I thought that was part of its charm, was the fact that it was so easy to see the direction it was going. But I thought it was so much fun because of that, you know?
Yeah, let's get into it. Let's talk about what we saw.
Okay.
So we have our lead, Barry Barrington, who is a kid he's a big fan of the Country Bears, an old-timey like 80s, 60s.
Yeah, I would say they're like an 80s hair band
Yeah.
style.
But country.
They've gone through like a million different genres. They start off as the Beatles, and then they evolve into like this hair band, and then they split up in 1991.
Yep.
But he has like VHS recordings and old posters and newspaper clippings of them. Like, it makes all of his school projects about them.
I want to give full credit to the movie artist who had to create the hundreds of variations of the Country Bear posters.
Exactly.
Because they're all over his wall and they're all different. Someone had to make hundreds of versions of fake Country Bear fan memorabilia.
Yeah, elaborating on that, the artistic direction that everybody was taken into. I mean, obviously it's like almost a spoofish style film.
Yeah.
But whoever was throwing in these Easter eggs had so much knowledge, because we open up on the Country Bears playing out like this sold out concert hall. And you see like from their opening number in the ride, you see the thing which has been featured, like the instrument with only one string. And you see...
Sounds just like a guitar, but it's only got one string. Yeah, that was in there.
And you had like the hickory bowed fiddle and stuff like that. But yeah, Berenstein,
the Baron,
Bear,
Berenstein?
Bear,
Berenstein?
Barry Barrington.
Yeah.
He's a little boy who just idolizes the heck out of him.
He's also a bear.
He's a bear.
He lives in a family that has not stated that he's an adopted child.
He's definitely adopted.
His family is all humans.
And they won't tell him.
I don't know if they
he's
believe it.
adopted.
The movie kind of plays out that the parents don't believe he's adopted either.
No, the parents definitely believe he's adopted and just aren't telling him. He has an older brother too,
who's human,
but is not the favorite kid. Like, not the favorite son at all. He's older and he's human, but for some reason they like their adopted bear kid even more.
They make it very clear when they're like...
The mantelpiece is, like, full of just Barry's pictures.
But
and
not the other one.
Yeah. They have the line where Barry is getting down on himself because he's like, what if I am adopted? We have different eye colors and genetics doesn't really make... Not calling out the fact he's a bear.
That he's a bear. He's just like,
you
have freckles
we
and I
don't.
don't.
Punnett squares in science class, and I have blue eyes, but you two have brown. But his dad, his parents, by the way, are stereotypical, like Leave It to Beaver style parents, made to be the most boring people ever. But his dad says, well, even if you were adopted, we wouldn't love you any less than your brother. In fact, maybe we'd love you a little bit more than your brother.
Something like that.
Yep, that's the case.
But Barry is feeling down on himself, and his brother's like showing him all this evidence that he's adopted. Barry's, trying not to believe it, but he feels like he has to go on a journey to find himself.
To find his purpose.
Yeah, his purpose in life. So he goes to Country Bear Hall to talk to the Country Bears, the people he's been idolizing his whole life.
He overhears this conversation between Henry, like the Henry, Mr. Top Hat Henry.
Yeah.
And
no top hat in this movie, though.
He did have a top hat.
Did he?
Yeah, he put it on sometimes. And took it off.
I needed more top hat from Henry in this film.
I demand more top hats.
More top hat from Henry.
More cowbell and more top hat.
So it's between Henry and Christopher Walken.
Speaking of Christopher Walken, Christopher Walken plays this banker who is trying to shut down Country Bear Hall because Henry is 6 years behind mortgage payments.
Yep.
Which is, I mean,
fair enough.
He's just doing his job, mate. Yeah, so they're gonna bulldoze Country Bear Hall in like 4 days if they don't make the payments.
So Barry, after this conversation, starts talking to Henry. He's like, I have an idea. Let's just get the band back together. And Henry's like, that's crazy. And then in movie fashion, 2 seconds later, they're off on their adventure to do this thing.
Oh yeah, they so want to do it.
So they have to go around the country and gather all the Country Bears.
Boy, this sounds so familiar.
No, it's not like another movie at all. Where a young man... It doesn't matter.
They meet up with Rizzo. I mean... So they
You
meet
named
up
the
with
one
Fozzie.
Muppet that
I mean,
wasn't in the Muppets movie.
So they meet up with Miss Piggy.
Yeah.
They meet up with they first go to get one of the bears, who is the security guard at a music video production studio.
And we break into this music video of, I guess, a rising 2000s actual musical artist.
If you want like crisp and clear early 2000s, this scene will give you the most you can possibly have.
But if you want a coherent scene in a film that adds to the plot, this is not the scene for you.
I think that this scene alone deserves to be treasured because just they have these music video clips of like the most 2000-y looking guys just jumping into a green screen with clouds and slow
like pointing at the
motion
camera and smiling.
Pointing at the camera, and then it goes into the
George Lopez theme song effect.
Yeah, and then the bear jumps up and does the exact same. And they find him and they're like, "Hey, join us," and he says, "Okay."
Yep. On to the next one. So then they go to
It's a honky-tonk bar for honey.
Yep.
Like, specifically for honey. And Queen Latifah is there.
As a waitress. No, as the bartender.
As a bartender. No reason.
Let's try it again. Queen Latifah.
And Queen Latifah is there.
As a bartender?
Yeah, for no reason.
Nope.
Like,
She doesn't sing.
She doesn't sing. She doesn't do much other than this one
They
scene.
have these nobody musical artists have whole musical numbers, but Queen Latifah,
Yeah.
nothing.
They find whichever bear is here. I think it's Tennessee who's here, and he's like, "Man, I'd love to join you guys, but it's Zeb. Man, I'd love to join you guys, but I owe Queen Latifah so much money." And then Barry just goes up to Queen Latifah and says that they'll have a sing-off between her band's guitarist and Zeb playing the fiddle.
Mm-hmm.
And whoever wins gets to either leave or gets the van or something.
Yeah. It's a real devil went down to Georgia situation.
So they battle it out and Zeb wins and he's like, "Okay, I'll come with you guys."
Yep.
Flash forward to the next person.
Yep, next person. So the parents get concerned and send these two police officers
Ham
after...
and cheese.
Yeah. After Barry, thinking that the bears had kidnapped him, even though Barry is calling him like, "Hey, I'm not kidnapped." Like all this.
Hey, I came here of my own accord.
So, like, he was kidnapped. Sends these two doofus police officers, which have some of the funniest lines in the whole movie. They probably have him buried underground, high up in a tower somewhere.
Look, suspicious activity over here, 2:00.
He looks at his watch. How could you possibly know that? So the next one is Tennessee.
Tennessee, who has become a marriage counselor. And he and Trixie, who you might know from the Country Bear Jamboree, were in a relationship, and she broke it off to go off with some panda. He was rich, and the panda, they say, like, "Don't pandas get everything nowadays?" And I feel like it's kind of racist. I think it's a little bit racist. I think they were doing it as a race thing. Anyways.
So they end up at a restaurant where another musical number happens that adds nothing to the plot. Mm-hmm. With this, again, nobody musical artist.
It would have been so much cooler if they had gotten, like, actual country artists to just be like, "Hey, it's the Country Bears." They do it for a second. They have...
Like in the video documentaries at the beginning, like Willie Nelson's like, "I learned everything I learned from those bears."
Why not just have Willie Nelson sing instead of Nobody Waitress Girl?
Or, I don't know, Elton John. That's a random name. I don't know why I'm throwing that out there. Let's move on.
Elton John, why would you even think of...
There's a police chase through like a car wash. That's fine.
Crazy hijinks.
They end up at a hotel. Trixie's there. They weren't even looking for Trixie. They just ended up at the hotel.
Found her.
And Trixie was there.
Singing in a nightclub.
And they had to do a very difficult task to get her to join by being like, "Hey, will you join?" She's like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, but let's sing a duet first.
And so they do a duet.
Mm-hmm. Oh, they also... Henry also, at the beginning, had to get publicity started up for the entire we're having a concert in 4 days style thing. So he called up his old manager, who's a deadbeat at this point. And the manager's like, yes, I'll help you. I'll finally get some work. Figured that was important for later.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
Next up is Ted, who is the guitarist and lead vocalist for the Country Bears. They go to where they believe his country club is and see his gardener, who looks a lot like...
He looks a lot like Elton John.
But Elton John's taller.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Elton John's taller. They tell him that he's over at the country club not singing at a wedding.
Just working a wedding.
Just being at a wedding.
Yeah. So they
Turns
go
out
there.
he's the wedding singer.
Yeah.
Instead of being the successful one who made it out without
super rich.
serving tables.
Yeah. Yeah, they all thought he made it big, but he did for a bit, but then didn't. His brother Fred has a real heart-to-heart with him to get him to come, and by that I mean punched him in the face, dragged him away unconscious. Mm-hmm. And so all the bears are together, and Ted is still like, no, this is stupid.
You don't have any of the logistics of running a concert. Who's gonna do your sound mixing?
It's like, this is why we broke up. And then all the bears are like, I guess you're right.
Yeah, they have an argument all in front of Barry, and Barry is like, you know what? You guys aren't a family, like in all of the interviews where you said you were a family. Family's supposed to love you, like my dad. He doesn't mention his mom or brother.
No.
Just his dad. And then he runs off back home.
Yep. So he has a nice reunion with his family, and the bears have a nice reunion with Christopher Walken, the banker, who kidnaps them, revealing his master plan of 30 years to get revenge. Because at a talent show years and years ago when the band was just forming,
he was a human flesh musician in which
he did those underarm...
He did armpit farts to the tunes of classical music.
And the bears beat him, so for 30 years he's been working on his revenge. So he locks them all up so they can't do the concert, which is highly unnecessary given information we get later about his plan.
Yeah.
So Barry Barrington and Ted...
Ted comes and has a heart-to-heart with him, like, hey, we made up after you left, and that's
we
want to
thank you
so
for all your being a kid with optimism, as opposed to us adults without optimism.
Well, what are you waiting for? Let's get to the concert. Some crazy hijinks about fitting him in the car.
Yep. Because they found out that all the other bears were...
How did they find that out?
I don't remember.
I think I spaced out for a second.
Yeah, me too. Somehow they find out the other bears were taken, so they have to go get them back. They use Barry's...
the one human truck driver.
Oh, shows up. He's like, they took everyone.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Even my chicken.
Yep.
Because his entire character is based off of the fact that he likes his chickens.
Yeah.
That's it.
So Barry, his family, and Ted all gather together, having Ted sit in a boat strapped to the back of the car. They use Barry's old tracker from when they first adopted him and had to track him down as a baby to find the other bears, which that's not how trackers work. They don't just locate where bears are.
No. He left all of his stuff, and he had the collar because his brother showed him the collar from when he was adopted, right?
Right.
So he ran off with the collar and all of his stuff. And then when he was like, my dad loves me still, he just left all of his stuff in the van so they could track the collar.
Right. Because he only brought one half of his belongings and happened to leave behind the other half that they would need.
Yep.
Good. So they follow the tracker, find the bears, set them free. They go to the concert where Christopher Walken reveals his ultimate revenge.
Ultimate secret plan.
That wasn't kidnapping them.
He was in cahoots with the old manager.
So no one promoted the show
the whole time.
No one promoted the show. They couldn't get an audience. They wouldn't make any money, and they couldn't save Country Bear Hall. Did we mention that's what they were trying to do?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Try to save Country Bear Hall. And then Big Al's like, no, I promoted it myself. And then just thousands of people show up.
That is something that I had a problem with, is Big Al never says he promotes it. I guess they promoted it on the road when they were doing all of their weird like music video performances.
They also note that Big Al, as he claims, is chubby but quick, so maybe in the 10 minutes he ran all around town just promoting the show for that 10-minute interval.
I'm chubby,
but I'm quick. Thousands of people show up. They make all the money back. They sing a little song. Barry's where he belongs with his family and with the Country Bears. You can have it all.
Barry closes it out with a rockin' thang solo on the thing that only has got one string.
Did Barry ever mention to them he was a musician too?
Henry watched him play the guitar once, I think.
So I was like, they're like, you're a country bear here, and they hand him a guitar. I'm like, that's an awful risk for a performance just to hand a kid a guitar. Like, if I was doing a concert and some kid was with me, I wouldn't hand him an instrument and be like, your turn, go.
Go.
Just bang, bang, blood on the saddle, bang. And that's the movie.
That's it.
That's the whole movie.
And might I just say, it is the perfect cocktail of Country Bears memorabilia and universe and early 2000s. It's the perfect country mix.
So let's talk a little trivia then. So
Yeah.
this movie did contain a lot of references to the attraction at Disney World because it was based off the attraction at Walt Disney World and the one that is no longer at Disneyland.
Mm-hmm.
Inside the movie, we have references, of course, to all the bears that are named: Henry, Fred, Ted, Zeke, Zed, Trixie, Big Al.
And that's it.
Yeah, they do mention Liverlips. They say that he did play the Country Bear Hall, but he was not a member of the Country Bears. Yeah, that was a little throwaway line when they were like talking about bands who have played the hall.
They also said Vanilla Fudge played the Country Bear Hall. If you're wondering about the cocktail I was talking about, the line Vanilla Fudge played the Country Bear Hall is in it.
There was one about the boat.
Yeah, Teddy Bear Cuda was the name of the boat.
Yep.
Teddy Bear, a character from the Country Bears.
Barracuda.
A fish.
A fish. That's the name of the boat. Mm-hmm. So was the dad a Country Bears fan? Or did he let his son name the boat? Is that a thing? Dads with boats. Do you let your son name your boat?
Or do you name the boat and then get your son into the same musical artist you were into?
There was also...
No, it has to be the dad's fault. It has to be the dad's fault that Barry Berenstein was so obsessed with the Country Bears because they're an old throwback band, and that's the exact kind of band that dads listen to.
There was also like a Hanna-Barbera reference in here where the bears were part of like a Yogi Bear Flintstones style cartoon.
Oh, yeah.
Which is really weird to me.
I'm surprised that they didn't also throw in like cereal boxes with the Country Bears on them and like McDonald's toys.
But why in a Disney movie with your own classic cartoons wouldn't you just do the animation in the style of a classic Disney cartoon? Why do it in the style of a different studio's style? Great movie.
Good movie. You know what? It is because the Walt Disney Company was not afraid to cast aside their own brand for artistic, creative integrity.
And then they copied this movie with the Muppets.
Yep.
There was also a reference to the Country Bear attraction. I mean, the whole movie is.
Yeah.
But in their bus, they had one of the classic paintings they have on the wall in the foyer. Mm-hmm. One of the classic paintings is inside the bus.
And did you know that the Country Bear Hall exists in Walt Disney World?
Jayden, do you know the origins of the Country Bears in general?
Yes.
Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I can take it. So the Country Bears was, like, attraction-wise, was originally pitched for this ski lodge that Disney Company was going to open up, like, in Pacific.
Like Colorado.
Northwesty area.
Like Colorado-ish.
Yeah. But they wanted it to be more of an adult place because it's a ski lodge. And the Country Bear show, the Country Bear Jamboree, was originally created to entertain adults who were drunk beyond words on whiskey and eggnogs and whatever.
And skiing.
And skiing.
Drunk off skiing.
Drunk off their skis. Get me a brewski. Ha. But it was created to entertain adults. So and it was supposed to be much longer and much more adult themed.
Yeah, like PG raunchy?
Yeah, like PG raunchy. Like fun for the parents.
Yeah.
You know?
Not like kids can't
wink,
watch
wink,
it.
Nudge, nudge.
Yeah. And you even see bits of that trickle into the show we end up getting with lines like...
sure. Every guy who turns me on turns me down.
That's in the show. Come up and see me sometime, you hear? Yeah.
Ooh, as soon
as I find a ladder, I'll be right up.
Mm-hmm.
That's in the show.
Did you realize, you guys, how choreographed Garrison and I are at saying Country Bears lines?
How many times have we seen that show together?
A billion. Our couple name, MacCraw mixed with McGrael, is McGrawl, which is...
Liver Lips McGraw?
Which is the name of a country bear.
That's all the trivia I have. Jayden?
Yeah.
Normally on the show, I like to create a ride for the movie.
Yep.
But when the movie is based off a ride, I like to try to insert the movie back into the pre-existing attraction like they did with Pirates of the Caribbean with Captain Jack Sparrow and Hector Barbosa. I know you also have another idea.
My idea, what I love about Walt Disney World attractions is the fact that the attraction is not where the story necessarily ends.
Got it. So you want to do an extension, take the existing attraction and add something near it? After it?
Well, I'm taking inspiration from the Jungle Cruise universe that exists, because the Jungle Cruise not just has itself as the Jungle Cruise, but it also has restaurants, just a whole lot of stuff around not just Adventureland, but like Walt Disney World.
So like the Jungle Cruise, you have the main attraction, and then you have the Skipper Canteen, and then at the Polynesian you have Trader Sam's.
Yeah, so I was thinking mainly about how Jungle Cruise and Trader Sam's exist, because they're so far apart. Like Polynesian and Magic Kingdom, that's a whole monorail ride and quite a skip away. So I was thinking having a Country Bear based dining option at Fort Wilderness Lodge. And I want it to be a honky-tonk honey bear style bar.
Just like the one in the movie where like
Yes.
you can buy like your regular drinks, but there's also usually like a honey theme to it, and then you have like the big honey
And
dispensers on the walls.
Exactly. And I want it to be filled with like Country Bears memorabilia from their concert days, you know? So it's a mixture of like an old memorabilia bar and like a classic country honky tonk with bears. And you could have musical guests, you could have the newspaper clippings and stuff, and all of the album covers, jukeboxes filled with their songs.
I want one Christopher Walken animatronic
No.
on the stage that could be unveiled to be like, I'm gonna shut down this whole operation and tear down Country Bear Hall. And then
Maybe.
someone on stage is like, no. And he's like, oh, you foiled me again. Yes. Yep. You're on board. That's the
No.
face of someone on board with this idea.
No, that is... Why would he even be at the honky tonk that the bears visit on
To
their off
reference
days?
the movie.
No! No! No!
Okay, can I go there myself and do my Christopher Walken impression?
Yes.
Great. Can we have a Thursday night Christopher Walken off where you can go in and whoever thinks they have the best Christopher Walken impression, and they have to say the phrase, oh no, Country Bear Hall's been destroyed. And that's the line they have to say. And then we have a Christopher Walken winner who wins and gets to keep a cowbell.
They either that or the line is, and that day is tonight.
And that day
is
tonight.
No, because if I want Christopher Walken to exist in the parks, he can go over to somewhere else that has the Jungle Book, because that's the truest and best Christopher Walken.
For Disney.
Is a orangutan Christopher Walken.
So, Jayden,
Yeah.
what are we thinking here? Hidden treasure? Lock it away in the vault?
Oh, it's definitely a hidden treasure.
I couldn't agree more.
It's so, like, you would think that it just earns credit based off the fact that it's based off of a beloved attraction, but that is not the case. They took what the Country Bears was originally created as, which is like humor for adults but watchable by kids, and they made a movie that was basically a spoof onto itself.
Yeah, this movie didn't get very good reviews when it first came out, but I feel like it's the same effect as Batman 66, where people look back at it and be like, oh, that dumb show, now you look back on it, it's campy. No, it was written to be campy from the get-go. You just didn't realize that. Like, it was a camp piece, which
it would do very well at the Met Ball, is what you're saying.
Something being written to be camp is different from something that is unintentionally campy. I believe this is intentionally campy. I would find it hard to say it's a great movie or even that good of a movie, because again, you have these out of nowhere music videos that aren't with the main characters. You do have like chase scenes that aren't very original. You can predict the entire plot, but if you put all that aside, there's a lot of effort put into it, and you can tell the writers and the actors they were putting something forward, and I think a lot of it worked. Some of it didn't. I would say hidden treasure as well.
Yeah, in order to get just like the star power you have with this movie, like Christopher Walken as the villain is perfect, but Elton John is there, and Queen Latifah is there, and there's just, I wish they did a little bit
Big
more,
Al?
because that's what the Muppets gave me, was just so many people. You know, so many people.
Well, Jayden, this was great.
I want to say one more thing about my bar idea.
Okay.
The bar stools rattle whenever there's a bear announced. Because of the footsteps of the bear. Like,
the floor just shakes
a little bit. You know how
Trader
Sam's has an interactive environment?
You can almost do the effect they had in the old Twister attraction at Universal, where the floor just kind of shakes every once in a while.
Yes. And I want people to get thrown out of windows. Like in
like
a
actors?
honky-tonk bar.
Or guests coming in.
No, you just hear,
pick up a guest and throw them out.
Sound effects of like people fighting in the background, where it's like, well, you said that the Country Bears were no good. You know what we do with people like you. Crash.
All right, Jayden, how about we test this out to close out the show? Pick me up and throw me out this window.
Okay.
Ow! Thank you for listening.